As the year 2015 came to a close, over 190 nations came together to chart a way forward to deal with one of the major issues affecting the world today, climate change. In December 2015, at the Paris Climate Change Conference, COP21, these countries adopted a historic, universal, legally binding global climate agreement. The Caribbean region was well represented at this forum as the islands voiced their concerns for the survival of the region's people. Rising global temperatures will lead to rising sea levels, which will inevitably wash away coastal villages and bring economic hardship to Caribbean people. The region has already begun to experience the worsening effects of climate change, and the most recent will remain imprinted on the minds of the Dominican people. The unassuming flood waters of Tropical Storm Erica, which washed away 90% of the country's GDP and claimed over 20 lives on August 27, 2015. The world's countries have come together and spoken on matters of climate change before. So what makes this just concluded COP21 different? Well, this global climate deal sets out an action plan to set the world on course to avoid the deadly effects of climate change. Developed countries have committed to limiting global warming to way below 2 degrees Celsius, even at an ambitious 1.5 degrees Celsius. Let's take an in-depth look at the key elements of the Paris Climate Change Agreement as outlined by the European Commission's Climate Action. The first key element is mitigation, reducing emissions. Governments agreed to a long-term goal of keeping the increase in global temperature to below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and to aim to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, as this would significantly reduce risks and impacts of climate change. They also agreed on the need for global emissions to peak as soon as possible, recognizing that this will take longer for developing countries and to undertake rapid reductions after in accordance with the best available science. The second key element is transparency and global stocktake. Governments agreed to come together every 5 years to set more ambitious targets as required by science and to report to each other and the public on how well they are doing to implement their targets. They also agreed to track the progress towards the long-term goal through a robust transparency and accountability system. The third key element is adaptation. Governments agreed to strengthen society's ability to deal with the impacts of climate change and to provide continued and enhanced international support for adaptation and to developing countries. Key element number 4 is loss and damage. The COP21 agreement recognizes the importance of averting, minimizing, and addressing loss and damage associated with the adverse effects of climate change, and it also acknowledges the need to cooperate and enhance the understanding, action, and support in different areas such as early warning systems, emergency preparedness, and risk insurance. And the fifth key element is support. The developed countries will continue to support climate change action and to reduce emissions and build resilience to climate change impacts in developing countries. Countries are also encouraged to provide or continue to provide such support voluntarily, and finally, developed countries intend to continue their existing collective goal to mobilize $100 billion a year until 2025, when a new collective goal will be set. These are the general agreements made in the Paris Climate Change Conference. What does this mean for small developing states like Dominica? On his return from the conference, the Honorable Minister for Health, Dr. Kenneth Daru, said he believes that the COP21 was for small island developing states. The minister was pleased that after decades of grappling with the idea of climate change, the world had finally acknowledged its existence and the damaging effects and came to a concrete agreement on the way forward. The agreement is due to enter force in 2020. For GIS News, Kimani St.